Alright guys, I just watched the movie Monster with Charlize Theron and Christina Ricci, and I really want to talk about this movie because this is the first time I saw this movie, and god damn, this was a fantastic movie. The way that this movie works in terms of it being based on a true life story of this woman named Eileen, who is this prostitute turned serial killer. It is fantastic in how it is interpreted and how, with the performances, this is... I haven't seen all of Charlize Theron's films. I've seen a good amount of them. But, good God, this is her best role. I think that this is insane how great of a job she did. They did something with the makeup on her where I don't know what the real girl Eileen looks like, and I haven't looked it up, but I want to see if she looks close to this, because they really quote-unquote uglied up Charlize Theron, and they did something with the makeup, because you can tell it's her, but she gets lost in this, how she looks in this movie. Like, the makeup makes it look like a completely different person, even though you can kind of tell it's her. But they did something with her face, like her cheeks are wider out, and then like her eyes seem bigger. Like, I don't know if it's just like it looks really, like, they might not have even done anything different to it, but it's in a way where it looks really, she looks really different, and not because she just has more like makeup on, it's because they made something like with her cheeks and with her eyes, like it makes her look a little off. And maybe that's what the real life Eileen looked like, but Charlize Theron in this movie is fucking amazing. Like, she gives, I think, from what I've seen from her, the performance of a lifetime. She gives off such different emotions. The way that the character Eileen, who is this trashy prostitute, who literally, since 13 years old, got knocked up, and then has been living on the streets, and then has become a hooker since she's been 13, and is a woman, has been a woman for a long time. This character is so interesting in how she perceives the world and how she perceives doing what she does, and perceiving how she is a woman who has been raped, and has all these things to her. And I love the fact that this movie doesn't draw a fine line between, yes, she is a hooker and a murderer by the end of the movie, a serial killer, but she makes a fair point that she's been fucked up because she's been raped, she's been homeless, she's been a hooker all her life, basically. So it's a weird line between, should I feel bad for this person, but she's also a fucking killer. This real life woman who was sentenced to death at the end of her life. But the way that this character is interpreted is so great, and Charlize Theron just does a fantastic job. She gives us so many different emotions. There's an inner dialogue with this, with her character, and how she says stuff about dreams and like wanting stuff, and then you realize as the movie goes, like, you see how fucked up it is with her, and how she's saying all these things in dialogue, like you're just hearing dialogue on the screen while she's not actually saying it, inner monologue, and it shows how messed up the character is from her head to like the real thing happening on screen. That's really cool, and that's a really great way of interpreting it, and this character is just so interesting and fascinating. And like I said, it's a weird, like, because I feel like there isn't justice for all the shit she's gone through, but there is, of course, like I said, of course she's a murderer, so like, where do you follow this line of like, she's done horrible things, but she's been fucked up and fucked over her whole life. So I don't know what to think, but it makes this character so interesting, and it makes her so, I'm kind of going to say complex, like, in a way, because it's just how this character is written, or just, like, interpreted from real life, is really fascinating. I think she's really does a fantastic job in this movie, and like I said, I think it's her role of a lifetime for her, like a performance of a lifetime for Charlize Theron. She really just sold it so much. There's a scene where I lose it because this character is really stupid, and like she she goes to like for an interview to be a lawyer, and she's never even like finished school at all. She's never had a job, no job experience. So this guy flat out is just a dick to her, and I mean it's I don't know, like it's hard to say it's warranted, but it's like she goes into this place wanting to be a lawyer, and then he says like, so you have no job experience, you've never had a job in your life, you've never finished school. How does that work? How are we going to be able to get you to work here? And then she says, well, I want to be one of them secretaries. And then he says, well, secretaries also have to have a degree as well. And I like how he treats her so badly, and it's interesting, and it's I might be heartless saying this, but I think it's funny just seeing her try to go and do this interview, and like she has no idea that like you need to go to school, you need to not be a hooker, you need to actually like be a normal person. And I just thought that it was really funny, and I like that her retort where she's like, yeah, fuck you, man, fuck you, and like she just screams at him, throws papers around, walks out. Like it's weird to say, but I think it's a funny scene, just showing how this character is in how she is. Like you can see why, like she's not smart, but like you can see, I don't know how to explain it, it's really weird because it's really odd. But anyways, I'll go to the next character, who Selby, this character Christina Ricci plays, who Christina Ricci, I know that Charlize Theron steals a spotlight in this movie. Definitely, it's one of my favorite roles I've ever seen her in, or it is my favorite so far that I've seen her in. Charlize Theron is just fantastic, while Christina Ricci is really, really great as well. And she is honestly, I think, underrated in this movie. She's a good actress anyways, but she's really, really good as this character, this young girl who is a lesbian in a religious family. And she goes to Eileen, who Eileen kind of forms a sexual bond with, and they become partners and go on the run. But Christina Ricci's character is really interesting too. The way that she has no money. She wants to go somewhere else, away from her family, away from her backwards mother. The way that she talks about gay people or black people, saying the N-word. The way that she interprets all these things. And I like the idea that the way that Selby just completely just leaves and like gets away from her family. I think that that's great, and I think that it works for this character because it's it feels like, even though she gets in the situation with Eileen where she has this horrible like she has to keep running away with Eileen. They got to keep switching license plates because then Eileen starts to murder people and gets money, but like then they've got to keep being on the run. So Selby thinks that she's gonna get this good life going with this girl that she loves, and then she realizes that she's stuck with this crazy person. And I love how the end with Selby, whenever she tells Eileen on the phone like they're gonna come get me, like the authorities, and then Eileen tells her story to Selby, like the whole truth, and then you see from the camera view, like when Selby's on the phone, it goes backwards and you see all these people like listening into their phone conversation, and that leads Eileen to be sent to death. And I like that it works so well because these characters had such an interesting relationship, and how Selby wanted it to be like this certain thing, but then realizing how shitty it is, realizing how she wants a normal life. She wants to just be, she doesn't want to be on the run anymore. She doesn't want to have to deal with this person who murders people all the time, even though she loved her. And I thought that it was just so great for this character too. She was so interesting, Selby. And I love how she's the one that betrays Eileen in the end, but Eileen, like it's hard to understand how to feel about this character. This character's horrible, but you do see some sincere moments with her, with Selby, even though she does talk like, even though she's still horrible to Selby in a way, but she still has some nice, heartfelt moments that actually make you feel for them, but you feel that like Eileen is fucking insane. And then Selby is along for the ride, not knowing what's going to happen, but then she realizes what is happening, so then she leaves and tells the authorities. And I love that fact, and I love how that ended, because that's how in real life it ended, I guess, and how Selby probably just told the authorities, and then Eileen was sent to death. Which, it's hard to talk about this because it's a real life thing, but man, it's like I don't have sympathy for literal serial killers, but the way they interpret this character in the movie, it's like you do feel bad for her. You do feel she has had one of the shittiest lives ever, like where she's literally been homeless since she was born almost, and then became a hooker at 13, had a baby at 13, and then just literally just the way that this character, and then raped and all this stuff for this character, all these horrible things, but it's such a weird line. Like I don't know where to fall under it. Like, of course I don't feel sympathy for her killing people, but the way that the torture that she's endured, like, that to me is so strong, and so how it's written is amazing, how you just see there's not a fine line between both, and I do like that. I like that there's ambiguity with that, with just how you should feel, because I feel a lot of things in this movie, like with that character, with Selby, with how that relationship goes, with how Eileen, you feel her back, you feel like what happened to her, you understand why she's like this, but you do feel some feelings for her, even though you don't too, in a way, because she's a serial killer. But overall, this movie just surprised the hell out of me. Like, this had one of the best Charlize Theron performances I've ever seen. And like I said, I haven't seen all of her stuff, but she in this movie just blew me away. One of my favorite, like, performances ever now. It really legitimately got me, and Christina Ricci is fantastic in this movie. One of the best I've seen her in too, as well. Just an interesting take on this real life story that I guess is pretty accurate. I don't know anything about the real life story much. I think it happened before I was born, or maybe close to whenever I was being born, but overall, this movie was just fantastic on the characters, on how interesting they were, on the ambiguity and how you should feel about these characters, their decisions. The acting is phenomenal. The writing is great. This is directed by Patty Jenkins, who, the reason I watched this movie and wanted to watch it more wanted to go and seek out to watch this more, is because Patty Jenkins directed Wonder Woman, which I thought was a fantastic superhero movie. And going into this, I was just like I gotta see her other work, and I think this is her only other film she's directed. And good God, can this person direct? Like, she is fantastic. This director, she just blew me away. Everything in this movie blew me away. Everything was great about, like I said, the characters. They're all so interesting and complex. The writing is great. The acting is great. The brutality of it is insane and hard to watch, but it works so incredibly well. It's just so weird that it's based on a real life thing, but it's just incredible, and I love this movie so much. I don't know what else to say about it, but this movie just got me so much. I think that this character and these characters in this story is just so interesting as a movie, and overall it blew me away, and I loved it. Way to go, Charlize Theron. Way to go, Christina Ricci and Patty Jenkins. You guys made a fantastic fucking movie.